What's your name?
Steve.
Okay, so where did you go to...
You're not going to check the facts on this? You're just going to assume my name is Steve?
Okay, Steve, so where did you go to college?
Somewhere that they taught me how to use video recording equipment. And I know that that cutaway is going to be very awkward, because there's no way I was positioned in the same spot I was before you shut the camera off to edit all this stuff out.
Was film your major?
No, it wasn't. I studied animal husbandry. Well, videoing animal husbandry. It was kind of awkward, especially. I mean, it was really hands-on, I guess would be a good word to describe it. But I think the most difficult part was definitely handling the camera with all of that splash equipment. Because I don't know if you've ever videotaped bull mating, but their aim is pretty bad. And occasionally you have to get like right up in there.
So how did you choose that as a career in college?
Personal interest. I've been videotaping animals having sex since a very young age. Started with squirrels. One time, actually, there were two birds that flew into my window when I was probably 6 or 7, and they made a nest above my bed, and I just sort of watched them for days at a time. Didn't leave the room, and I only survived by eating the eggs that they laid, which essentially defeated the purpose, I suppose, but fresh eggs, so that they were pretty delicious.
How do you think you fit in with society with this kind of career? It's not really typical.
No, not at all. I find that I connect better with farm animals, particularly the larger ones, like cows and particularly fat pigs. I don't know. I think they just get me. They just don't judge the same way that people do. Because, you know what, I can talk to my goats about this every day, and all they need is some food. If I were to talk to a human being about this, they would probably think I'm kind of weird.
So what do you think you're doing now, then?
Right now? I mean, luckily that you guys allowed me to bring my prize calf into the room to do this interview. She's really my moral support right now. If she wasn't there, I mean, you guys, you can't see this. There's a small cow behind the camera here, but she's my rock. So I named her the Rock. At first, it was kind of weird, because she's female. But then I showed her the rundown, and she loved it. Yep.
So what happens when you're hungry? Do you kill the animals and eat them?
Usually whatever they make from the animal husbandrying. I wait for that baby to be born, and then I cook it up and I eats it. Like a caveman.
Do you feel guilty about it, considering they're your friends and moral support?
No, absolutely not. No, it's just the way of nature. It's another reason why I don't think I would fit in very well with normal society, because I can befriend something, and then at some point I understand I'm going to have to kill it, and I'm going to have to eat it to survive.
So what do you see yourself doing in 5 years?
Probably more of this. I'd like to perhaps move on to larger animals. I've always wanted to go into marine animals. I just like the idea of videotaping whales having sex. I don't know if it's the idea of being able to scuba dive with a camera, or the fact of being able to videotape those. I feel like it's the size of the animals, really. Particularly the genitalia. It's just comical. It's comically. I don't know if you've ever seen a blue whale's penis, but it's the size of a small car. And it's a real challenge, an artistic challenge, to get that whole thing on camera. And when I say whole thing, I don't mean the act, I mean that physical object is difficult to get into frame. So that really, I'm thinking up if I can't get the blue whales, orcas are always good because they usually eat while they have sex. Much like people in the Midwest. So, I guess that applies to the rest of society as well.
Okay, besides all this, what else do you consider as hobbies?
I make watches in my spare time. I make watches and I like to cook.
What are your favorite things to cook?
Animals. Just about it, animals. I just like cooking them.
What's your favorite recipe?
I don't really do recipes so much. I just sort of throw a bunch of stuff into a pan with a little bit of olive oil, a little bit of oregano, and a little bit of garlic. Actually, garlic is good. Masks most of the fear that is left in the meat after I slaughter them. Also, the betrayal. It sort of puts a special flavor in there. Like, you can really feel the hurt that they felt when I killed them after being their friend and videotaping them.
So you mentioned about making watches. How did that hobby start?
I was rather curious at one point to know how long animals actually had sex for, and I found that I liked very precise times, like very obnoxiously obsessive precise times. So normal watches didn't really cut it, going down to the second or even the millisecond, so I had to start making my own. That got it down to the exact moment of climax.
So how do you think this affects you personally? Like, why do you need to know that?
You know what? I really feel like that quality in me makes me, I'm detail-oriented. Very, very detail-oriented person. And I don't think it affects me poorly in any way. I feel like it's a positive, I don't want to miss out, don't want to judge things, don't want to, just say, like, oh, well, it happened in this time frame. No, I'd like to know exactly when things happen.
Okay, fair enough. Who are your role models?
My role models are, I'd say, Princess Diana, and Winnie the Pooh, and Jeffrey Dahmer.
Can you expand on those?
Physically, no. Two of them are dead, and one is a fictional character. I suppose with Winnie the Pooh, I could take pictures of them and I can expand them, but I don't think that would help at all.
I mean, why are those people your inspirations? Role models?
Well, with Princess Diana, she did a lot of work in third world countries. She was a beautiful, beautiful woman, and inspired the entire world. With Winnie the Pooh, he really taught me to believe in myself, and I'm a big fan of honey. And Jeffrey Dahmer had a nice haircut.
So where do you work?
I'm currently unemployed, although working on the farm, it helps. I suppose it lets me exist. I guess, but strangely enough, I have not been able to find work. My guess is it's the economy. It's so bad. No one can find a job. So when it turns up, I'm sure I'll find something, or somebody will be willing to hire me.
Okay. What type of music do you listen to?
Mostly Norwegian death metal. That's I feel like it's very deep, and most people just don't give it a chance. But yeah, that would probably be it.
Can you name specific bands in that genre?
The bands I listen to don't really have names, and even if I told you, you probably have never heard of them. So, they're really obscure.
So, what do you like about that genre exactly?
I'd say it's probably the classical piano. Yeah, it's calming. They mix a lot of Mozart and Bach into everything else, and that mixed with the everything else. It just really flows for me, and I can connect to that pretty well.
Okay, so where are you from?
I'm not actually sure. About 10 years ago, I turned up on the doorstep of a monastery in Toronto. Apparently, I had a pretty bad head wound or something, and I mean, the monks found me with a video camera and no clothes on, and I mean, there was no note, there was no nothing. I've been told I look like a young Finnish person, so it's possible I'm from Finland. But I don't feel Finnish, you know what I mean? So, I'm not quite sure.
Are you eager to find out who your parents are?
Nah, not at all. Because I feel like I'd be disappointed when I found out they weren't cows.
Well, so how did you think your upbringing was? Did the monks raise you well, do you think?
No, they just sort of left me on the side of the road with no clothes on. I moved from town to town, moving from Toronto to the other side of Toronto, back to the monastery. And then the next day, they finally called the police and had me sent over here. How they got me through customs, I'll never know. I apparently wound up in front of a church 3 days later with another pretty bad head wound. So I don't know.
So did you go to college at all?
I did. I went to a college once. I didn't like it so much. I couldn't find a parking spot. So I decided to turn around and leave.
What was your major in college?
Oh, I didn't have a major. I went to a college once. And like I said, couldn't find a parking spot, decided, So, left.
So you weren't actually enrolled, you just went for a day?
Yeah. Well, not even a day, more like, 5 minutes or so. I sort of I walked up, noticed that there are no parking spots, and then turned around and left.
So what were your plans? Like, if you did find a parking spot, what were you going to do there?
Probably find somebody to videotape. That's what I think I would have done. Yeah.
Was there any specific person you were looking to videotape?
No, not really. I mean, I prefer videotaping hairy people because, like I said, it reminds me of animals. So the larger and the hairier, the better.
Okay, well, so once you left the campus, what did you go do instead?
I don't really remember. I woke up a couple days later with a pretty bad head wound, and I don't know. It was a different video camera actually that I woke up with this time, and they actually, whoever hit me put more clothes on me this time. So that was good. Gets kind of cold around here at some point, so being naked is not always the best plan.
So you mentioned you're unemployed. How do you live? Like, how do you afford things?
Oh, I don't need to afford anything. I live on a farm now, and, with videotaping animals having sex with each other and then killing and eating them afterwards, I get by.
Okay, well, thank you for your time.
Oh, you're welcome.
Nice to meet you, Steve.
Yeah.